Chair, members, Chief Constable, thanks very much for the invitation again to join this meeting. I want to say just a few comments, if I may, before, again, allowing the more extended conversation to take place. Operation Canova, as you know, has been running since 2016. We are in the closing stages. I'm pleased to inform you, and I'm pleased to say that myself. We are looking to publish a closing final report, I would suggest, in the summer, certainly before we go into the autumn period. And that will summarise the work that's been carried out in terms of the depth of that work and the outcomes, but it will also highlight a number of key issues, one of them being the non-disclosure of information from key agencies. And when I was last here, I updated members on issues we'd had with MI5. MI5 have recognised that. They have done an internal review, but I will comment on the final report on the nature of the relationship with the security service and indeed other agencies when looking at legacy matters. So again, Chair, if members and the board were so minded, once Canova is concluded and there was an opportunity, I would be more than willing to come back and speak to that at that time. However, because of this thematic focus that you have today on legacy, I was more than happy to come and join this meeting today. And I think before closing and allowing questions, I think I'd like to make a couple of really, I think, fundamental points, and I hope quite briefly. So firstly, I endorse the Chief Constable's analysis and assessment. I held the office of Chief Constable in the second largest force in the United Kingdom for over 6 years. And I also operated in an environment where there was inevitable and I suppose natural tension between devolved matters and reserved matters. Now, arguably, there was more stability within that relationship in the Scottish context, but undoubtedly there was still tensions. And I have also been in the position of looking one way, well, that matter's reserved, and then looking the other way and being told that matter's devolved. And it is deeply frustrating. But looking at the challenge round about legacy, and I had an awareness of it, a knowledge of it. I hadn't really been aware of the full impact. And truthfully, I don't think people outside Northern Ireland or people who have lived or worked within it would ever be aware of how significant it is and how vital it is to the legitimacy of public services and the legitimacy of policing. So the two key points I would like to reiterate this morning is firstly, round about the impact of resources. Not only the resources required to address the challenges round about legacy, but the diversion of resources from the challenges of today, and just as importantly, as the Chief Constable seeks to transform and evolve the organisation for the challenges of tomorrow. We know that in terms of our technology, in terms of the ability to people to operate in the cyberspace, the PSNI needs to evolve and develop into that. And they can't do that because so many resources, and that's people, let's talk about it. These are police officers, the Chief Constable, 400 police officers, but it's also significant amounts of money and investment are directed to that challenge. Now that's not a challenge that is unique to troubles-related matters, again, across the UK and Ireland and beyond. Legacy issues on historic child abuse, issues where children in care have been abused, does put a demand on current day resources and current day capability. But I've got to say, nothing like the impact that it has on policing in Northern Ireland and within the communities. And I think that's something that the board should be fully charged with. And I think the second point, in some ways, is even more important than that. That's really important resources and the ability to fully fund and have the management and the leadership and the strategic discussions that are needed. But more importantly than that is to do with the legitimacy of of policing. Now, the police service anywhere, but particularly, I would argue, in Northern Ireland, where the relationships with the communities are so sensitive, policing gets its legitimacy not from an Act of Parliament, not from a president or a king or any legal individual. It gets its legitimacy from the trust, the confidence and the knowing consent of its fellow citizens. And at the moment, that is something that the PSNI still has challenges with. And again, I hadn't realised that it was the impact of unresolved legacy matters that had such an impact on that. And as the Chief Constable's outlined, developing an organisation that fully reflects and represents the communities it serves, again, a fundamental part of legitimacy, is enormously challenging as a result of that, and gets away from what we seek to achieve, where the police are the public and the public are the police. And again, I think it's particularly acute in Northern Ireland. So I really commend the leadership of the Chief Constable and his senior team. I really commend the fact that he speaks publicly around this matter. And I say having been a senior police officer in the United Kingdom and had led a large organisation, I do think the challenges are particularly acute and particularly demanding in the context of Northern Ireland. Resources, yes, but it's public trust, it's confidence, it's legitimacy. And I think unless it's properly addressed, I think that will continue as we go forward. So again, I'm very pleased and privileged to be with you this morning.